Hi, I'm Anthony Fury in for Ezra. Thanks for joining us. My vote for most underreported story of 2013 is the tale of Molly Norris. Who's that, you ask? A good question. You're not supposed to know about her, at least according to the rules of the mainstream media, that is. So hush, hush, just forget about it. Why? Because it involves radical Islam, which is something else we're not supposed to talk about. We're in denial that that's even in our midst. So back in 2010, the cartoon South Park created an episode depicting Muhammad. Oh, as we all know from the Danish Cartoons Matter, big no-no for the Islamist crowd. The creators of South Park, they received death threats prior to the airing of the episode. So Comedy Central, that's the show's network, they blurred the depictions of Muhammad and bleeped out references. To this day, the episode hasn't been aired in several countries. Enter Molly Norris, who was a cartoonist living in Seattle. She rightly thought this was all ridiculous, so she drew a cartoon advertising "Everybody Draw Muhammad Day" to be held on May 20th. It stated, "Do your part to both water down the pool of targets and, oh yeah, defend a little something our country is famous for, the First Amendment." The cartoon was not actually Morris creating the event, though. It was supposed to be a cartoon of an event poster by a fictitious group called Citizens Against Humor, CACA. But it didn't matter. The post went viral and the idea just took hold. Soon people were trying to organize real Everybody Draw Muhammad Day events. Norris tried to disassociate herself from the event. Little good that did her. In the lead up to May 20th, a Pakistani court ruled the event would cause damage to the religious beliefs of millions of Pakistani Facebook users. It was promoted on that website. The government temporarily blocked Facebook and other sites for all of Pakistan. Then the radical American Yemeni Imam Anwar al-Awlaki called for the death of Norris and others involved in the event. Which brings us to today. In the March 2013 edition of Inspire magazine, which is produced by Al-Qaeda, they released a wanted, dead or alive for crimes against Islam list. It included Salman Rushdie, still, Pastor Terry Jones, the guy who wanted to burn the Korans, and Norris. Now, Inspire isn't only available in the hills of Tora Bora with a print run of 24. Look, it gets around the world, and with deadly results. You see, in April, it was revealed that the two Boston bombing suspects, Dzhokhar and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, learned how to make pressure cooker bombs from reading Inspire. In other words, this magazine lived up to its name and inspired people living in America to take up armed jihad in an attempt to kill other Americans. And no one was outraged. Norris was apparently a left-leaning individual. Where are her liberal friends standing up for her rights? American leaders should be saying, how dare you call for the death of our citizens simply for drawing a cartoon and then distribute your magazines to tell our youth to act on it. But instead, the chattering classes ignored it. Look, it's not just the Tsarnaevs who picked up the fight for radical Islam in 2013. Fort Hood shooter Nidal Hassan admitted in his trial that last summer, he switched sides and joined the jihad against U.S. forces. Here in Canada, Chehab Esagayar, one of the Via Rail plot suspects, insisted on being judged in court by the Quran. In January, Ali Medlej and Chris Katsarubis, two young men from London, Ontario, were killed by the Algerian military while attacking a gas plant as alleged members of an Al-Qaeda splinter cell. These were all huge stories confirming radical Islam is alive and well in our own backyards, folks. Oh, but the mainstream media didn't give them the attention they deserved. People turned away. So I ask, what will it take? Notice I said earlier Norris was living in Seattle. Why? Well, that's because there's no information available on her current activities. She may not even be alive right now. The word is Norris changed her name and went into hiding after the FBI confirmed the threats on her life were credible. Fine, she's got to do what she's got to do. But why don't more people care about her whereabouts and her well-being? And why aren't more people angry about the fact that a woman in a supposed free society has to go underground simply because she drew a cartoon? Folks, it's hard to say what's a bigger scandal. That a bunch of humorless Islamists still want to kill someone for drawing a little cartoon 3 years ago, or that there are so many people out there who won't even acknowledge the situation. I say shame. Shame on everyone who didn't stand up for Molly Norris. She should be living freely right now out there, drawing whatever cartoons suit her fancy.
To the American people, I say, your security will continue to be threatened as long as your government continues with its aggression against the Muslim people.
I'm joined now by Robert Spencer, who follows these sorts of stories all the time. Robert, I gave my summary of what I thought were the most sort of salient tales of 2013. What's your take?
Well, you know, Anthony, what's really remarkable about Molly Norris is exactly that she is a victim of Islamic jihadist intimidation. She lost her career. She lost her identity. She's gone underground. And yet the people who used to employ her in Seattle don't seem to be stopped short by that at all. None of them have stopped. None of her leftist friends, nobody in the leftist intelligentsia has stopped and said, wait a minute, maybe there is something wrong with this Islamic threat. Maybe there is something to this jihad threat. Instead, the denial and the obfuscation continue unabated. You know, another example is Terry Lowen in Wichita. I don't know if you've ever even heard of Terry Lowen, but you would have if he had succeeded. In just a few weeks ago, he was arrested in Wichita, Kansas. He was an airport worker, an employee at Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport, and he was arrested as he tried to drive a van that he thought was full of high explosives onto the tarmac of that airport in order to be martyred in the path of Allah, that's his words, and cause maximum carnage and death. Again, his words. Now, the funny thing about this is that he left behind quite a lot of writings. He's in jail now. One of the things he said was, I don't understand how you can read the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet and not understand that jihad and the implementation of Sharia is absolutely demanded of all the Muslim Ummah. And so this guy, Terry Lowen, a convert to Islam, is clearly somebody who has been motivated to commit an act of violence by Islamic texts and teachings. What Muslim leaders and what government officials ought to be doing in the wake of that is saying, what can we do to contain this? How can we teach against this among young Muslims? How can we stop Muslim converts from getting the idea that they need to wage war against unbelievers, and so on? Instead, the FBI special agent in charge of the investigation and the U.S. attorney in charge of the investigation, when they announced his arrest and indictment, they made the point of emphasizing that he was twisting and hijacking Islam to unrecognizable extremes, and that there was nothing to justify what he was doing within Islam. Now, the problem is that, you know, how long are we going to keep telling ourselves these things? There have been over 20,000 jihad terror attacks carried out in the name of Islam, justified by Islamic texts, since 9/11. We need to call upon Muslim communities to reform, to institute programs that are inspectable, honest, and open, to teach against these ideas, these understandings of Islam that they supposedly reject. Instead, everybody just complacently pretends that this is not a problem at all.
And Robert, for the viewers, I mean, in case anyone thinks, well, this Terry Lowen fellow, he must not have been serious. I mean, he hooked up with someone he thought was a jihadi. It was actually an FBI agent, and he wanted to load a van full of explosives and drive it onto the tarmac of the airport he worked at. I mean, this is very, very serious stuff. And I was reading another news story where another FBI agent said, well, this shows that Americans need to remain ever vigilant on this sort of stuff. And I'm not exactly sure what he was referring to, because I don't know what he means remain, because I don't think people are particularly vigilant about this right now, or weren't, you know, even before this happened. And second of all, like you said, I mean, the FBI is downplaying it too. So what hope is there for vigilance?
Yes, exactly. The problem is that the FBI under Barack Obama since 2011 has forbidden itself to look at the motives and goals of jihad terrorists, because that leads them to link Islam with terrorism, and that's the demand of 57 Muslim organizations who wrote a letter to the Obama administration, to John Brennan, the head of counterterror, and now the head of the CIA. They demanded that there be no connection made between Islam and terrorism. And so FBI agents cannot explore what would motivate somebody like Terry Lowen, and that means there are only going to be more Terry Lowens, because instead of formulating some kind of coherent, comprehensive response to stop people like Terry Lowen from doing what they do, they are pretending that there is no ideological problem at all, nothing that needs attention in terms of the violence, the capacity of Islam to incite the violence. And so that means we're only going to see more jihad terror attacks and plots.
That's really alarming. I was going to ask you, we've been doing our 2014 predictions, usually on more sort of, at least with a possible positive spin to it, but it seems like right now there's no positive spin in the 2014 counter-terror predictions.
Yeah, I'm afraid not. As long as we carry on with this willful ignorance about the nature and the magnitude of the threat itself, then the only thing I can predict for 2014 is what Mr. T predicted in the Rocky movie when he said, "My prediction, pain." That's it for 2014.
I wish it wasn't true, but I'm sure it is. Sadly to say. Robert Spencer from Jihad Watch, thank you very much, as always.
Thank you.